The child everyone calls so easy is sometimes the one I worry about most. You walk into daycare at the end of the day, and the room is full of emotion. One child bursts into tears the second they see their dad. Another drops everything and runs straight into their mother's arms. Another clings, sobbing, as if the whole day is finally crashing out of their body. And then there is your child, still sitting on the floor, still stacking blocks, still calm. No dramatic reunion, no reaching, no anger, no collapse. Almost no reaction at all. And everyone around you loves this. They call your baby easy, independent, so well-adjusted, so mature for their age. But sometimes the painful part is not a child who cries when you come back. Sometimes the painful part is the child who doesn't. Because what breaks a parent's heart is not always the presence of distress. Sometimes it is the absence of the response your heart was quietly waiting for. If you care about the hidden emotional signals behind your child's behavior, subscribe to BabyQ's Decoded, where we decode the moments that look small on the outside but mean much more underneath. Because some of the most important things children tell us are not loud at all. Sometimes they arrive as a silence that adults praise too quickly. Adults are deeply comforted by children who do not make emotional demands. The baby who does not cry at drop-off. The baby who does not make a scene at pickup. The baby who does not cling, protest, demand, or fall apart. That child gets rewarded immediately. People call them easy, independent, secure, emotionally advanced. But that is where the misunderstanding begins. Healthy children describe separation anxiety as an entirely normal stage and even a beautiful sign of a meaningful attachment. In other words, a child reacting to separation is not automatically showing poor behavior. Sometimes that reaction reflects the very existence of a strong bond. So the real question is not, why is this child so calm? The real question is, what if some children are not peaceful, but efficient at hiding distress? That is the possibility most adults are never taught to consider. This is the part people get wrong all the time. A child who protests separation is not automatically less secure. In attachment theory, one of the hallmarks of secure attachment is not emotional coolness. It is the opposite. It is that the child uses the caregiver as a secure base for exploration and a safe haven to return to under stress. That means distress can actually make sense. A securely attached child may become upset when the caregiver leaves, and when that caregiver returns, the child often seeks closeness, reaches out, and allows themselves to be comforted. That pattern is part of what Mary Ainsworth's reunion-based observations helped establish, and pediatric attachment reviews still describe secure attachment in terms of proximity seeking, distress on separation, and comfort on reunion. So when a child falls apart with you, that is not always a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes it means something is very right. A child who falls apart with you is not always less secure. Sometimes they are showing you exactly where safety lives. One of the most important corrections attachment research gives us is this: the healthiest child is not the least emotional child. In Ainsworth's strange situation, researchers did not judge emotional health by asking, which baby stays the quietest? They looked at something more meaningful. Does the child use the caregiver as a secure base? When stressed, do they seek comfort? When the caregiver returns, do they move toward connection? And once comfort is offered, can they settle? That is a very different standard from the one society uses. Because society tends to praise the child who appears the least affected, attachment research asks a deeper question. Where does the child bring their distress? Pediatric summaries of the strange situation note that securely attached infants may be upset by separation, but they seek the caregiver on reunion and are comforted by that return. By contrast, avoidant patterns may involve much less visible distress and much less obvious proximity seeking on reunion. So the twist is this: the healthiest child in attachment research is not the one who never needs comfort. It is the one who knows where to bring their distress. This is where the story becomes much harder and much more important, because a calm-looking child is not always a calm child. In attachment research, some infants who show avoidant patterns do not display much distress on the outside during separation or reunion. They may not cry much. They may not reach much. They may look composed. But that visible quiet does not necessarily mean their body is at peace. The Institute for Learning and Brain Sciences at the University of Washington notes that infants showing avoidant behaviors can have elevated heart rate during separation and reunion, meaning they may still be distressed even when they are not acting distressed. Earlier biobehavioral work likewise found that insecure avoidant infants showed less overt distress, while cardiac measures suggested arousal during separation comparable to secure infants. That is what makes this title so powerful. The perfect baby may not be the baby who feels the least. The perfect baby may be the baby who has become the hardest to read. Some babies do not stop feeling, they stop showing. And once you understand that, silence stops looking simple. It starts looking like something the nervous system may be doing for a reason. There is another reason not to assume that fine on the outside tells the whole story. Research on young children in out-of-home childcare has found that cortisol patterns during the day can differ from what is typically seen at home. A 2023 meta-analysis reported higher mid-afternoon cortisol and a greater cortisol increase over the day in childcare compared with home. Earlier work, including a JAMA pediatrics study, also found a pattern of afternoon cortisol rise on childcare days. That does not mean every baby in daycare is under severe distress, and it does not mean childcare is inherently harmful. What it means is something more careful than that. Behavior is what we see. Physiology is what we miss. A baby who still plays, still eats, and still looks easy may be adapting well, or may be carrying more internal activation than adults can detect by watching alone. And those effects are complex, shaped by age, hours in care, method of measurement, and other contextual factors. So how does a baby become this quiet? Not necessarily because they feel nothing, and not necessarily because they're unusually independent in the way adults imagine. Sometimes, if a child repeatedly experiences distress without openly showing it, or learns that overt bids for comfort do not reliably organize the moment they are in, they may begin to minimize those bids. Not disappear, not vanish, just become smaller, more efficient, less obvious. Attachment descriptions of avoidant patterns often involve less visible comfort seeking on reunion and more turning toward objects, activity, or distance instead of overt bids for contact. This is why silence can become adaptive, not because the child has transcended need, but because the child may be learning a kind of emotional economy. Ask less loudly. Show less openly. Need less where everyone can see it. The child may not be independent in the way adults imagine. The child may be learning to need less out loud. And that is a very different thing. This baby is not thinking, "I'm independent." Their body may be feeling something more like this. "You're gone. I don't show much, but my body is still tight. I stay busy. I stay organized. I stay small. Do not ask too loudly. Do not need to visibly. Hold it together until safety returns. This is not a grown-up inner monologue. It is not language. It is not a conscious strategy. It is a felt pattern, a body trying to stay manageable, a nervous system trying not to spill too much at once, a child who may still need closeness, but has learned to carry that need more quietly than adults expect. And that is why the silence can feel so confusing, because on the outside, it can look like maturity, but on the inside, it may be effort. This part matters. Not every easy baby is distressed. Not every quiet reunion means an avoidant pattern. Not every calm child is suppressing something painful. Temperament matters. Fatigue matters. Familiarity with the setting matters. Caregiver quality matters. Childcare cortisol findings are complex and moderated by factors like age, hours in care, country, and method of collection. So this video is not asking you to judge your child from one pickup, one goodbye, or one expressionless moment. It is asking you to notice patterns, context, repeated emotional style. Silence is not a diagnosis, but it is sometimes a clue. And if adults only praise the silence without getting curious about it, they can miss what the child may be communicating underneath. So what should a parent do with this? Do not simply smile and say, "Good job being so independent," then walk away. Bring connection first. Get down at their level. Soften your face. Slow your voice. Offer your presence before you ask for performance. If they allow touch, offer gentle touch. If they do not, stay near without intruding. Healthy Children recommends a loving, consistent approach to separation anxiety, with brisk, predictable transitions rather than long, emotionally loaded departures. It also notes that transitional objects can help some children feel more secure during separation and bedtime routines. So create a reunion ritual that is simple and repeatable. Same greeting, same warmth, same signal. I'm back, and you do not have to prove you missed me. At home, lean into co-regulation. Face, tone, rhythm, repair. Do not make the child prove they need you. Bring safety first. Let the reaction come second. Sometimes the most healing thing is not demanding a big emotional response. It is making one feel possible again. If your child is consistently very flat, very shut down, rarely seeks comfort across settings, or you have broader concerns about development, emotion, or connection, talk with your pediatrician. CDC's guidance is direct. You know your child best. Don't wait. If you have concerns, talk with your child's doctor and ask about developmental screening. So the next time the world praises your child for being so easy, pause before you call that peace. Sometimes the quietest child is not asking for less. They are simply asking more silently.